Hi everyone, this is TommyCrash and welcome to this video. In this video...
Hey, hold on. Who are you? Why are you on my channel?
Wait a sec, I thought you invited me to do this for you.
Wait, I did? Oh, you're that wolf guy.
Well, duh.
So that means you know about the movie that we're reviewing.
If you mean the Goku one, but not the Dragon Ball movie, then yeah.
Right, yes. The Great Alakazam. Based on the classic Chinese fiction tale, Journey to the West. Back in the 1960s, Toei, the company that produces Dragon Ball, Sailor Moon, and One Piece, worked with American International Pictures to bring over one of the first anime films to the United States.
Bah. It sucks. I mean, it's like far off from the original story.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't do that well when it first premiered in America. So let's see how far it derived from the original story, how that translated into an animated film, and ultimately... Before we start talking about this movie, why don't you give us a brief summary of the original tale, Tommy?
Okay, so the original version was a world of humans, but animals with proper training and meditation can do magic tricks and turn themselves into human forms. The hero is called Sun Wukong. A monkey has some training and learns some magic tricks and try to fight the gods of Buddhism, but get beaten and being punished in the Stone Mountain for 500 years until the prince, quote unquote, in the movie showed up, who was actually a monk with sacred duty to deliver the scripture from India to China. But this monk's flesh can make any monster immortal and gain great power, so everyone wants to eat him. And Alakazam, or Sun Wukong's duty, is to escort him through the 9 times 9 equals 81 challenges.
Now, to be fair, that is somewhat similar to what happens in this movie. I mean, it's a little bit different. The names were changed when they localized this film to America, because some of the Chinese stuff in it didn't translate well. I don't know, it was the 1960s, whatever. But it seems like they butchered the original story. Then again, this is a production studio in Japan telling a Chinese story, and that being brought over to the US, so it's like a double butchering. Maybe this is Toei's fault in some regard.
I mean, they made it more quote-unquote Disney with songs and the art style. I get it because I love those kind of movies, but they added a wife in a Buddhism story.
Buddhists don't have wives?
Well, if you're just a normal believer in the religion, it's fine. But if you're a monk like Prince in the original story, you can't even have any sexual thoughts at all, or drink alcohol, and have to be a vegetarian. Not to mention to be anything more than heterosexual.
Alright then. But I see what you mean when you mention Disney. The animation and songs are very spot on in this film, actually, especially those fight scenes. I'd even call it some of the stronger advantages for this movie, but that leaves us with plenty of disadvantages as well. Like how they interpreted the source material, for example. How much did you like the animation and musical numbers?
Personally, I love it. I love those songs and how they make a swift change from actual dialogue and the song and how catchy that song was. I can't even get it out of my brain after a month that I watched it.
Alakai, Alaco, Alakazam, happy and carefree, that's how I am. If you want sunshine all the day long, sing this magic song.
And the animation is kind of a meh, because how Disney did and other Chinese company did during that time.
Any examples of Chinese companies?
Here, take this clip. This is a clip of a movie which is the basically same story, but more accurate according to the original novel, and with a Peking opera art style, and background music, and voice acting. It should be fun to watch.
I'll link the full movie to that in the description, but back to Great Alakazam. Sometimes when you adapt a story from its original material, you can create an alternate perspective, like how Disney's version of The Hunchback of Notre Dame is vastly different from the book it was based on, and you can argue that both are great stories on their own. Alakazam doesn't really work that well on its own, I feel, at least the way Toei and American International told it. I wouldn't even knock it for the more cartoonish antics that it pulls, like whenever Alakazam... Should I call him Alakazam or Wukong?
Alakazam is fine. It's like a completely different story. So there's that.
You're right. When Alakazam fights the Golden and Silver Horn Kings, called Herman and Vermin in this version. Heck, this is a tale about an anthropomorphic monkey and pig on a pilgrimage with a couple of humans, so that idea alone can translate to a cartoon. The main issue I have is its terrible pacing. The proper journey doesn't even start until about 40% into the movie. I mean, usually the first act isn't that long, and I'm not sure how that compares to the original novel.
Well, as I mentioned, there is 81 challenges that lies in their past, so the part of it was forming their team, and also Sun Wukong's background story only takes up a small part.
Now, does that mean you're saying that they turned a story based on multiple characters with their own flaws and challenges, and just simply put the spotlight on just one?
Not really. The whole story is focused on Sun Wukong, but the main characters all have their own development.
I can't say that they developed the characters very well in The Great Alakazam, but I'll let you be the judge of that.
I think they did an okay job for a movie with limited time and budget. I laughed off my chair when I saw the scene where Piggy cried when he accidentally ripped the luggages up and their food supply are all gone.
Good old Schadenfreude.
Schatten what? It's German, isn't it?
Yeah, it basically means laughing at other people's misery.
Ah, so German.
Exactly. On to the spoiler section. Skip ahead to this time to avoid spoilers. And if you're not worried about it, then sit back and be spoiled. So there's this little demon child that runs around and tries to break up the group. I'm guessing he's not from the original story, but his development in the story seems to work out pretty well. It's handled better than the Bull Demon King's character as well as his kingdom. I think it's supposed to look like hell. Reminds me of that part in Fantasia with the devil on Bald Mountain.
There's actually a little demon character in the novel called the Red Boy, and he's the son of the Bull Demon King. And also, being a Demon King means there's a lot of monsters to serve him. So yeah, I'd say it's like a hell. And also, their fort is in a volcano.
Right, but that wasn't very well explained in the movie. I just sort of assumed the devil-hell comparison. But moving on, about Dee Dee, the monkey girlfriend. I can't think of anything noteworthy that she does outside of being a fateful monkey.
I think the funniest thing to see was at the beginning of the movie when they are falling in love. It's really funny that the playwright thinks how easy it is to make a girl from crying to smiling. Trust me on this one, I've been there, it's hard AF.
Well, this was the 1960s, keep in mind. The general attitude towards girls, most notably in a conservative country like Japan, wasn't very progressive. You could say the same thing about 1960s America, where they didn't have equal pay until years later after this movie came out. I mean, the inclusion of a girlfriend character just to have one is such an outdated trope at this point. I think it was a bit old-fashioned back then as well.
Also, I find it funny when Dee Dee saw Alakazam watching strippers dance and not having a word. Is that how people think about Chinese kings?
I'm not sure if I would call them strippers, but apparently that's what Toei thought. But enough about that. Spoilers over. Let's go ahead and move on to the more important question. How furry is it? Let's comb through this monkey tale through my chance system, a handy rubric I use to analyze furry qualities in media, those being cast, harmony, anthropocentrism, narrative, commonality, and expression. Let's look at cast, or how many characters important to the narrative that are furry.
I'd say 3, Alakazam, Dee Dee, and Mr. Bacon.
Yeah, there isn't very much, but then again, we are working with a mainly small cast of main characters. Suppose you could include the Bull Demon King too.
Oh yeah, why would I forgot the only daddy character in this movie?
Daddy? Oh my.
Beefy and such a meanie. Why not?
Anyway, the other main characters are Prince Amat, the Demon Boy, and Lily Popo.
I am Luli Popo, and I welcome you to Castle No Hobo. I've heard about you, Mr. Lottery. We'll get you nowhere, fools.
So out of 7, we do have 4 main anthro characters. I'm not sure if this story could be enhanced by making more of the human characters into furries, so I'd say there is a reasonable amount of narratively important characters that are furry. At around half, I give this quality a rating of 2 out of 4. Next is harmony, or how natural the furry characters are to the setting.
To me, the movie didn't do very well because being an anthro character in the actual setting is supposed to be scary and bizarre from a normal human characters. In fact, in the original novel, our hero was suffering from being misunderstood and recognized as a monster or obake in Japanese because they can talk or do magic tricks. It's supposed to be not harmony.
And that's a very interesting point. While it ranks higher on this aspect, it's confusing to have Alakazam's anthropomorphism almost brushed off and never discussed or noticed. I would have just considered it normal, wacky, folklore storytelling stuff to have animals walking and talking along with people. But regardless, I'm ranking this as a 3 out of 4 in terms of harmony. And next is anthropocentrism, or how close they are to being human in terms of behavior and human traits and all that. Considering how close monkeys, apes, and other similar animals like primates and stuff are to humans, not just in appearance but in social hierarchy, I wouldn't doubt the anthropocentrism for Alakazam and Dee Dee's character.
I agree. In the movie, Alakazam and Dee Dee can hardly be recognized as monkey because they basically do everything what humans would do besides the part where they climb trees at the beginning of the movie. I'd give it a solid 4. But I think the movie should be more interesting if they added a bit of small details that a primate animal would do.
Yeah, same thing could be said about Piggy and Bull Demon. I did appreciate the bull fighting scene between Bull Daddy and Alakazam, though only because the bull actually transforms into a big scary feral bull.
Good. You agree with me on that daddy character then?
We'll talk about this later. Anyway, solid 4 out of 4. Moving on to narrative, or how important these furry characters' animal nature is to the film, you could argue that Piggy being gluttonous and Alakazam being a wild dude can add to their furriness. Is there some animal symbolism from the original novel about Wukong being a monkey or Baiji being a pig that represents their character or personality?
I'm gonna rate this part 1 out of 4 because Piggy being a foodie and that can be classified as a stereotype for larger dudes rather than being like its natural species. It's almost like they only have the appearance of anthros but not affecting how the plot goes at all. I keep saying the original novel because it's way more furry than the movie. There's lots of situations where Alakazam or Wukong could monkey around or Baji got the squad into trouble because of his greed.
I agree, it's very superficial, and you wouldn't have to sacrifice much in terms of human-like traits to get that proper effect from your furry characters. Then again, this movie is almost 90 minutes, even if it spends more time than it should going over Alakazam's backstory. Their animal nature being tangential at best makes this 1 out of 4 in my mind. And now to commonality, or how many furries there are outside of the main cast. We have a lot of monkeys from the beginning, and I guess you could count some of the monsters from Bull Demon King's place.
Yep. I say those 2 elder monkey servants did make the plot smooth, and in the beginning, where the gods look through the telescope, the dancing scene is pretty impressive. I say 4 out of 4.
Well, hold on, you also had Merlin, pretty sure that's not his original name, and the other gods as well.
Yeah, I'm still confused by why their palaces are called in Japanese the Land of Magicians.
Everyone who believes in magic has heard about Majutsu Land.
It's Chinese, for God's sake.
Well, I wasn't the one that adapted the script to English, but my best guess, maybe they thought having more than one god appear was like a no-no. Could be that magician was a more kid-friendly term or America-friendly term, I don't know.
I mean, the King Amo and Queen Amas is actually belongs to different religion, which is Buddhism and Taoism. But anyways, what's your rating for this part?
Right, my point was I was just pointing out the more human side characters and background characters. 4 out of 5 would actually mean almost none appear in the film, so to me it's closer to a 3 out of 4 if you include all those people, and gods and all that. And finally we have expression, or how furry they actually look or appear.
They're pretty good furries, to be honest. Even when they did wear clothes, you can still tell clearly that they look like a normal furry character. 4 out of 4 to me.
But earlier you mentioned that you could hardly recognize these characters as the animals they were just from their behaviors alone.
I mean, act like an animal doesn't really affect how they look like to their species. It's like whether you're talking in a fursuit or not, you're still a giant fluff ball of cuteness.
You make an intriguing point there, but 4 out of 4 would mean that they have a completely animalistic body like, real life animals. Their stature is bipedal, meaning they walk around easily on 2 legs whether they're monkey or pig, even if monkeys can easily walk on 2 legs, and there are other details as well.
Well, you got a good point there. I'm gonna change my rating to 2 out of 4. Is it too late? Is there the exam is over, drop your pencil kind of stuff going around this video?
No. You're not in school, at least. Not right now.
Awesome!
2 out of 4. After a quick tally, we have a total furriness quality index score of 15 out of a possible 24. Now let's give some final thoughts. Tommy?
Okay, I enjoyed this movie a lot, I really do. It is fun to see the story probably every Chinese people knew from a whole new perspective, and with those songs and animation, it's pretty enjoyable.
From the way you talked about it before in terms of the original tale, it sounded like you hated it. Granted, it actually did pretty terrible at the box office when it came out, as I mentioned before. So bad, actually, that anime never came to movie form to America until Studio Ghibli films like Howl's Moving Castle and Spirited Away were localized. Until then, it was all just cartoon series like Speed Racer and Robotech and Hello Kitty. But, did you have a change of heart?
I hate how the localization works, but it is always fun to have an idea of how Chinese culture are altered in a different country, in this case Japan and America, just like how I love to try localized Chinese food like orange chicken or fortune cookies.
I like your attitude on things, Tommy. That's probably why I invited you to help me with this review in the first place, even though I don't actually remember inviting you.
Aw, that's really nice for you to say that. And thanks for having me in this video.
Now, I was hardly bored watching this movie, but I wouldn't exactly call it a masterpiece. It's more of a fun, mindless movie to laugh at, and sometimes with, but I'm not sure how a kid would actually enjoy it.
I wish I could say that Alakazam was a good king or a wise king, but he wasn't. He was rude and arrogant. As a matter of fact, he was a bit of a crab about the whole thing. I suppose you could say that his crown went to his head.
Anyway, this has been Gregor Kung Fu Fighting Reindeer with How Furry Is It? Special thanks to my friend TommyCrash the Majutsu Wolf for appearing in this video. The link to his channel is in the description. Click on the like button if you enjoyed what you saw, and subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to see more anthro analysis and antler antics. And since you're still here, go ahead and check out my Patreon page. Patreon lets you pay creators like me directly through a monthly paid subscription, and if you're generous enough, you can even have your name in the credits before each review, or help me co-produce a review. I also have a special Discord server for my patrons, but you can also send me single donations through Ko-fi, that's Ko-Fi. And as always, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.